Accidentally, the defense played the video.
One text message, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
Cassie Ventura threatened to kill this guy.
I've got questions about whether they're going to get a conviction.
Well, I was in a dark place for a few years. I have to give a special shout out. Thank you. Cassie.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
Cassie Ventura gets more and more, I would say, angry, upset, and rage.
The book that she wanted to offer the rights to Sean Combs for $30 million.
Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy. Also on the stand today, Don Bouchard from Danity Kane.
Are you afraid in some ways that he'll get out?
The singer was at the center of speculation that he might have been one of Diddy's victims.
And they have text messages of her saying to him, like, I can't wait for the next freak off.
But to show that things were apparently all good in 2020, almost 2 years after they split up, they're sending each other light and love, and now here we are, 2025.
What does it really take to silence an entire courtroom? Dawn Richards' testimony about the abuse Cassie suffered at the hands of Diddy left everyone absolutely speechless. Get ready, because the bombshells she dropped ripped the curtain off an unimaginable reality. This is the moment the truth hit like a tidal wave.
People were wondering why they started this way. I mean, they're trying to prove federal cases, but a lot of the people who have been in the courtroom with me are thinking they're just trying to paint Diddy with the ugliest brush they can.
Dawn Richards' testimony hit the courtroom like a lightning strike. As a former Danity Kane member, the girl group built under Diddy's control, Dawn wasn't just another witness. She was an insider who'd seen the truth from the front row. That made her testimony one of the biggest shocks in the trial's first week. People thought she might have a few stories to share, but nobody expected what she actually revealed. When Dawn started talking, the room went dead silent. Nobody moved. So what did she say about Cassie's alleged abuse that left the whole courtroom stunned? Dawn's connection to both Diddy and Cassie ran deep. She wasn't just a co-worker. She was close, part of Diddy's world every day, rehearsing, recording, and touring right alongside Cassie and the rest of the crew. To the outside world, Cassie seemed like the perfect pop star girlfriend. The romance looked glamorous, even enviable. But Dawn's testimony ripped off the mask, showing a world filled with fear, manipulation, and secrets behind closed doors. The truth wasn't just shocking, it was horrifying.
The prosecution spent a lot of time on domestic violence. That's a crime, but it's a state crime. And he's being charged with a specific federal crime. Sean came to my house and me on my living room floor. Did you ever have sex with him, Diddy, again? And she says yes, voluntarily.
Her testimony put years of whispered rumors about Diddy and Cassie's relationship into chilling context. From the moment Dawn took the stand, you could feel the energy shift in the courtroom. She recounted moments where she witnessed Diddy's angry outbursts firsthand, leaving everyone around him on edge, walking on eggshells. And according to Dawn, those explosive outbursts didn't just hit the staff. Cassie took the brunt, over and over again. Dawn made it clear she wasn't repeating gossip. She was describing what she had personally seen. She'd been there, watching it all play out with her own eyes. Dawn shared a detailed account of one incident so intense, the entire room was left stunned and silent. She described a fight where Diddy allegedly unleashed on Cassie, screaming with such force that Cassie's physical reaction made it clear just how deeply his words cut. But it wasn't just the screaming that rattled everyone.
April 20th of 2010, she texts Sean Combs and suggests a freak out with a woman this time. And this is literally right after suggesting no more freak offs. They're both sort of just maniacal in their text messaging and what they want from each other.
It wasn't just the shouting that haunted the room, it was the threat in Diddy's voice, the way he allegedly twisted every moment so Cassie felt completely powerless to fight back. For Dawn, that memory was burned into her mind. She described it as just one of many times Cassie looked trapped, caught under Diddy's grip with no way out. The true force of Dawn's testimony didn't just come from the details she shared, it was how she shared them. Her voice, witnesses said, was thick with anger and sadness, like she'd been holding back these words for years, waiting for a chance to finally speak her truth. Legal analysts in the room agreed. First-hand accounts like Dawn's can turn a trial upside down. It's one thing to hear vague accusations, it's something else entirely to hear a witness recount exactly what they saw. For the jury, testimony like this makes the accusations impossible to ignore. and Diddy's reaction in that moment. That was a whole different story.
One text message in particular, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
Honestly, Rachel, there have been several text messages where she shows that she wants to be with Sean Combs for the rest of her life. But even the defense ended their argument with a text message from 2012, Combs saying, "I want to do our last freak off." And then she says something to the effect of, "I don't want it to be our last freak off. I want it."
As Dawn spoke, reporters in the courtroom said Diddy's entire body language shifted, defensive, guarded, almost like he'd been caught off guard by how direct she was willing to get. He squirmed in his seat, his expression growing darker by the minute. At points, he leaned over to whisper with his legal team, eyes narrowed. He didn't interrupt, but it was clear. He was not ready for the story Dawn was telling, because her words weren't just challenging his carefully crafted image, they were backing up Cassie's accusations with first-hand, undeniable weight. But the moment that really struck the jury, and anyone following along outside, was when Dawn said it plainly. She believed Cassie spent most of her time just trying to survive. Those 5 words hit like a sledgehammer, cutting through the courtroom and laying bare the heart of the entire case. Suddenly, years of rumors and whispers about emotional and physical abuse snapped into focus. People in the room were left shaken, the impact visible on their faces. It wasn't just about arguments. It wasn't just about control. Dawn's testimony painted a picture of Cassie living in a constant state of fear and isolation, with no clear way out. Her account didn't just become another piece of evidence, it became a turning point. It set off a ripple effect, one that would shape how the jury and the public would see Diddy from that moment on. For the defense, it was another layer of trouble they'd struggle to peel back.
Prefaced it by saying it's a video of Sean Combs walking in nature. And everyone's like, what's this? What's going on here? And then you heard it, Sean Combs talking about grace, calmness, and love. And he said, "Come grow with me."
As the first week of the trial wrapped up, Dawn's words still lingered, heavy and unforgettable. She wasn't just sharing memories. She was exposing a reality that had stayed hidden in the shadows for far too long. And with even more witnesses set to take the stand, some of them just as close to Cassie and Diddy as Dawn was, the courtroom is bracing for a fresh wave of shocking revelations. So what's coming next? No one can say for sure. But one thing is clear. Dawn's explosive testimony has set the stage for what might become the biggest celebrity trial of the decade.
She said that she was forced into the home and that he tried to kiss me. This all happened after a meeting at an Italian restaurant in Malibu, and says Sean Combs is not in his right mind because when he tried to me, and right after that, or right around the same time as this breakup dinner, Cassie Ventura is immediately texting Sean Combs, "Hit me up when you can." Sean Combs says, "Okay, I'm in an investors conference." She says to him, "I know I look bad. I have to get my shit together." She was implying that she was not sexually turning him on. So this is just like a schizophrenic, up and down, maniacal relationship.
The courtroom drama shot to a whole new level when a shocking piece of evidence was introduced, an audio recording featuring Cassie herself. On that tape, Cassie is reportedly heard threatening a Diddy associate, someone who allegedly had video proof of a violent showdown. The second the audio played, the entire mood in the courtroom changed. What could possibly be so explosive that even the jurors looked stunned? That recording didn't just offer a fresh peek into the tangled mess of Diddy and Cassie's relationship, it was a true turning point. It exposed the raw emotional chaos both of them seemed trapped in. The tape played out, and Cassie's voice rang through the room, desperate, furious, unfiltered. No one could ignore the pain and anger behind her words. Legal insiders say her tone was pure exhaustion, a woman pushed to her breaking point by years of conflict and control. Her threats didn't sound calculated, they sounded like the outcry of someone pushed too far. That's what grabbed the entire courtroom and refused to let go. Here's what we know about the tape. Cassie is heard addressing a man believed to be a trusted Diddy associate. This man was rumored to have a video recording, proof of a violent altercation between Cassie and Diddy.
Jurors also heard an audio recording where Cassie could be heard threatening to kill a Diddy associate who had video of one of her freak-offs with Diddy.
Jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised.
I'll cut you up and put you in the dirt. And then she kind of takes a breath, tells everyone who else at the table that they have to go, they have to leave. And then she turns to him after they're gone and says, "There won't be blood on my hands. Someone else is gonna kill." you. This is the only time that we've really seen like the switch flip with Cassie. She's the person next to me who's a former prosecutor and an attorney agreed that this is the most damaging and damning part of today's testimony.
I looked over at the jury box because I was wanting to hear their reaction as we're hearing in real time her voice threatening several times to kill someone. The jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised. I saw them listening. And I think to hear her voice in court and see how calm and measured she is, and then to hear that side of her.
Cassie's voice on the tape swings wildly between rage and sheer determination, demanding answers, making threats, doing whatever she can to protect herself. The recording showed just how deep their problems ran. This wasn't just about Cassie and Diddy anymore. Their toxic dynamic pulled in everyone around them. Even Diddy's own staff got tangled in the fallout. The sheer level of emotional chaos, the constant fear of exposure, was impossible for jurors and spectators to ignore. But why would Cassie be pushed so far, to the point of threatening someone in Diddy's circle? Experts following the trial say moments like these are all too common in abusive relationships. Years of manipulation, isolation, and mental exhaustion wear people down until they hit their limit. People in situations like Cassie's often reach a breaking point, sometimes acting out in ways outsiders might not understand. But it's not irrational. It's the result of relentless, grinding emotional strain. One legal analyst said the tape added new layers of complexity to the story playing out in court. It didn't just support the claims of an unhealthy, abusive relationship. It showed Cassie was living in constant fight-or-flight mode, her reactions growing more extreme over time. This recording wasn't just about Cassie standing her ground. It was a window into the cost of living under control, pain, and fear for years on end.
Cassie Ventura still wanted Sean Combs back after the breakup. I think that's what the defense was ultimately trying to get accomplished, that she liked him, she wanted him. If he was so abusive and such a horrible person, why would she still be pursuing him?
You could hear the desperation in Cassie's voice. This wasn't about getting back at anyone, this was about survival. For the jury, that audio painted a complicated picture. It ramped up the seriousness of the allegations against Diddy, but it also forced everyone to examine Cassie's emotional state. Was the recording solid proof of her pain and struggle? Maybe not by itself. But when you line it up with Dawn Richards' testimony and the growing mountain of accounts against Diddy, it all comes together to reveal a toxic cycle most people can't even imagine. As powerful as the tape was, it left the courtroom with even more questions. Diddy's legal team is expected to pounce on Cassie's emotional outburst, arguing that it discredits her and shows instability. Their goal? To plant seeds of doubt about her entire story. No surprise there. Defense teams for high-profile stars almost always reach for tactics like these. And let's be real, this strategy won't stop at Cassie's words or actions on that tape. Rumor has it, Diddy's side is gearing up to dig even deeper, targeting Cassie's past, her mental health, and any personal interactions they can twist to their advantage. But here's what really matters. That tape wasn't just about one angry moment, it was about the dynamics driving all the chaos.
Something else that I thought was interesting is sort of this timeline that the defense laid out. And they showed that Combs and Cassie Ventura had been in contact with each other via text in 2020. This is around the time she had just had her first child. He's congratulating her and saying Frankie's beautiful, so using her daughter's name. And it seemed like they were both sort of having this exchange of sending love and sending light, and I hope your family's well. And one of the last texts Cassie Ventura sent was something to the effect of, I hope one day we'll have an opportunity to talk soon. The defense said, and you never got that opportunity, did you?
For years, Diddy has been seen as untouchable, the king of the music world, while Cassie was just the girlfriend, usually silent or overlooked. But that tape, it smashed the image everyone thought they knew. The courtroom wasn't just hearing Cassie's anger, they were hearing her fight to reclaim power in a relationship where it sounded like she almost never had any. What happens next could turn the whole case upside down. Will the defense double down, doing everything possible to discredit Cassie and cloud her testimony? Or will even more witnesses, tapes, and bombshell evidence emerge, digging deeper into what really went on behind closed doors? One thing's for sure, the jury isn't just judging a court case anymore. They're trapped in a web of power, control, and emotional destruction. And whatever comes next could change everything.
If you were abused, Cassandra Ventura, if you were trafficked, Cassandra Ventura, why didn't you go to the police? Why didn't you leave? Why did you, even though she said she didn't keep coming back, why did you stay with him?
The defense team's plan to turn the spotlight onto Cassie's past might have seemed smart at first, but it ended up opening new doors they never expected. They put Cassie's time in rehab, her battle with PTSD, and an old rape allegation front and center, hoping to break down her credibility. Their message was clear: paint Cassie as unstable, as someone whose emotional struggles made her unreliable on the witness stand. But the move backfired, big time. Instead of tearing Cassie down, the strategy exposed just how much trauma and manipulation she'd already survived. Legal experts watching the trial said the defense actually strengthened Cassie's case by showing how vulnerable she really was. By digging up her darkest moments, they highlighted the exact kind of pain and insecurity that someone like Diddy could use to tighten his grip. Cassie's past didn't weaken her story. It made the jury see just how easy it would be for Diddy to exploit her most fragile moments and keep her under his control. And one talking point took center stage: intimate text messages between Cassie and Diddy, including one where Cassie wrote, "I'm lost without you."
Then they built up the case and said, oh, by the way, in October of 2023, you moved back home, is that correct? And she said, well, yeah, I moved back with my parents. You guys have a modest home, your family home where you grew up? She said, yeah. So they reiterated, so your mother, your father, your husband, and your 2 children moved back to Connecticut? Then they said, where was your financial income? Where was the money coming from? Your husband was a physical trainer, that's correct. She answers the question, yes, he was a physical trainer. They're getting to this idea that money was tight around this time. She moves back home.
The defense leaned hard on these messages to paint Cassie as emotionally dependent, trying to suggest that the relationship, while stormy, was always consensual and mutual. But these texts only made the complicated, fragile nature of their dynamic even clearer. Experts pointed out that survivors of abuse often stay attached to their abusers, not because the suffering wasn't real, but because they've been manipulated into believing they have no way out. The courtroom listened as these texts were read alongside defense claims that Cassie's emotional state disqualified her from giving a clear, trustworthy account of what happened during her time with Diddy. Legal insiders noted this strategy is designed to attack not just a witness's testimony, but their whole character. Survivors of abuse, especially in high-profile trials, almost always face this kind of scrutiny. It's a classic legal move: highlight inconsistencies, bring up personal struggles, and plant just enough doubt to sway the jury and the public. But in Cassie's case, this plan might have backfired on the defense, causing more damage than they realized.
But today we learned that the book that she wanted to offer the rights to Sean Combs for $30 million, she called it The Dark Times. For anyone who's been following this story,
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all. I was in a dark place for a few years, you know what I'm saying? And I have to give a special shout out, thank you. All that love. Cassie, for holding me down in the dark times. Love.
Sean Combs at the BET Awards literally shouted out Cassie and said, thank you for holding me down during the dark times.
Instead of poking holes in her story, the defense ended up adding depth to Cassie's narrative as someone who endured years of control and manipulation. By forcing Cassie to relive and defend these moments from her past, the defense may have unintentionally drawn even more attention to Diddy's potential manipulation, especially given the huge power imbalance during their years together. Many following the case noted how these revelations about Cassie's mental health and personal history only made her allegations more believable. Her battle with PTSD and her rehab stint were reframed, not as weaknesses, but as the likely consequences of surviving an abusive, toxic relationship. Instead of casting doubt on her words, this attack from the defense just invited more questions about how much of Cassie's pain came directly from her dynamic with Diddy. By pushing this argument, the defense may have hoped to distract from earlier testimony and evidence, but instead, they painted Cassie as a person fighting to survive unimaginable circumstances. If anything, it underscored how trapped she might have felt, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, in their relationship. This unexpected shift in the courtroom is already changing how the jury sees the entire case. These details move the story past just text messages or single incidents. It's now clearly about patterns of abuse, power imbalances, and the toll it takes on everyone involved. And with even more witnesses on deck, including former Danity Kane members and insiders from Diddy's professional world, the narrative is only getting more complicated. Whether they meant to or not, the defense's attempts to discredit Cassie may have only made her claims look even more serious. As the trial rolls on, testimony from others close to Diddy and Cassie will keep peeling back the layers of this already explosive case. Aubrey O'Day is the next name sending shockwaves through this already explosive trial. As another former Danity Kane member, she's now stepping forward to share her own story about life under Diddy's management. What does she know? What has she seen? These are the questions everyone's asking as Aubrey prepares to take the stand, and she's not alone. Diddy's former employees, including some who were close to both his personal and professional life, are also lining up to testify. Each witness adds another layer to this unraveling story, one that's getting harder and harder to ignore. The importance of multiple witnesses can't be overstated. Dawn Richards' testimony already sent shockwaves through the courtroom, exposing a harrowing glimpse of Cassie's alleged abuse. Her words forced the jury to look past Diddy's carefully built public image. Now, with Aubrey set to speak, the patterns of control and toxicity being alleged could come into even sharper focus. Aubrey brings a unique point of view, having first-hand experience working with Diddy at Danity Kane's peak and likely seeing what went on behind closed doors. That's the direction this trial is moving, not isolated events, but an emerging pattern of behavior. Aubrey's testimony feels especially critical because she's always been outspoken about the struggles of working under Diddy. Over the years, she's given interviews about his demanding management style and relentless pressure. While she hasn't directly accused him of abuse before, her willingness to speak out makes her appearance on the stand one to watch. If she backs up any of the claims from Cassie or Dawn, it could create a powerful narrative of consistent behavior stretching across years. This is exactly what legal experts say makes multiple witness testimonies so hard to dismiss. They create a chain of stories that's nearly impossible to dismiss or discredit. Dawn's testimony, for example, described moments where she saw Cassie allegedly enduring Diddy's outbursts and manipulation. She spoke about times Cassie was left visibly shaken, emphasizing how pressure and control seemed to follow her everywhere in the relationship. Those details alone left a massive impact on the courtroom. Now, with someone like Aubrey stepping up next, the jury will start seeing these accounts as more than just isolated events. They become pieces of a much bigger pattern. And once a pattern is established, it becomes almost impossible to argue these situations were just accidents or misunderstanding. What makes all this even more powerful is the addition of former employees. These aren't just people from Diddy's social circle. They were working for him, handling his daily business. Their testimonies could fill in the blanks and give more context to the private moments already described during the trial. Did they see the alleged abusive behavior firsthand? Or were they pulled in by being told to help cover things up? The weight of their testimony will depend on the details they share. But their willingness to speak now is already raising questions. What do they know and why now? The impact of so many witnesses can't be ignored. Legal experts agree. As more people come forward, the case becomes more convincing. When narratives line up across different witnesses, some personal, like Cassie and Aubrey, some professional, like former employees, it makes the accusations stronger. It forces the defense to work even harder to attack each account, a strategy that loses steam the more people come forward to contradict it. So what might Aubrey reveal? That's the big question everyone is waiting to have answered. Will Aubrey's testimony be the next bombshell in a trial already overflowing with shocks? Some are already speculating she'll bring up professional dynamics that mirror the personal control Cassie described, suggesting Diddy's behavior wasn't just limited to his private life, but bled straight into his work world. If that's true, it could make the prosecution's picture even clearer. A man who thrived on control and intimidation wherever he went. With more witnesses joining in, the urgency of the trial keeps building. It's not just one person's word against another, it's an overwhelming narrative, stitched together by multiple, overlapping accounts. This puts even more pressure on Diddy, who's already been under the microscope since day one. And with every new voice stepping up, the big question lingers: what will they reveal next? And how will it tip the scales in this ever-escalating case? Aubrey O'Day and the others have the power to turn this already complicated trial into something even bigger, something that could shake the industry. The first week of the trial was nothing short of a spectacle. Diddy, seated at the defense table, did his best to look powerful and composed, the image he's always projected. But as the days passed, the cracks started to show. In a courtroom packed with tension, every single movement, every glance, every flicker in his expression was scrutinized, not just by the jury, but by everyone in the room. And when his composure finally slipped, that's what everyone is talking about now. The atmosphere in court was heavy, almost suffocating at times, especially during the toughest testimonies and the parade of evidence. Every eye in the room locked on Diddy as Cassie took the stand, recounting details of their relationship and speaking openly about moments of alleged control and abuse. Paired with Dawn Richards' haunting testimony, the accusations became even harder to dismiss. Diddy, who seemed stoic at the start, quickly grew uneasy during the most intense moments. People noticed how he squirmed in his seat as Cassie spoke, the tension in his jaw growing each time her words painted an unflattering portrait of a man once seen as untouchable. When the defense started cross-examining Cassie, Diddy tried to regain his confidence. Their focus on her past struggles, PTSD, rehab, might have looked like a boost for his case. But even then, as Diddy whispered to his attorneys, everything changed when explicit texts and audio were introduced as evidence. That's when his calm started to crack. His eyes narrowed, his posture stiffened. He couldn't hide it. The evidence weighed on everyone, not just the jury. But Diddy himself, and the jury's reactions, raised eyebrows, whispers, all during the playback of the most explosive audio so far. The dynamic shifted completely. This was no longer about just public perception or celebrity image. This was about real people sitting in judgment, weighing the full weight of Cassie's accusations against Diddy. Celebrities in high-profile cases usually try to keep their image under tight control, but for Diddy, that grip was slipping. Pressure like this exposes even the most carefully trained stars, and this trial was no exception. What really left the courtroom on edge? When Diddy's emotions boiled over, right after Don Richards finished delivering some of the most damning testimony yet. According to people inside the courtroom, Diddy's face darkened, his whole posture turning defensive as he leaned in and whispered furiously to his team. For a man who built his whole career on projecting power and authority, this sudden loss of control was a stark contrast to the image he spent decades building. Insiders say it was a moment that captured the jury's attention more than any single piece of evidence. But this trial isn't just about what's happening inside the courtroom. The fallout is already leaking into the public's perception of Diddy's legacy. For years, he's been a titan in music, a self-made mogul with an empire built on charisma and a larger-than-life presence. Now, those same traits seem to work against him. Each time his composure cracks, whether it's visible frustration, whispered arguments with his lawyers, or that unmistakable discomfort on his face, the jury isn't just seeing a star on trial. They're watching someone unravel. And when jurors spot vulnerability, it can create room for doubt, a problem for someone as calculated as Diddy. What makes this trial even harder to predict is what's still to come, with even more witnesses set to testify, including Aubrey O'Day and former employees. The pressure is only going to intensify. How much more evidence will surface? How many new first-hand accounts will support what Cassie and Don have already shared? Diddy's reactions so far prove he knows the stakes. His freedom, his career, and his entire legacy are hanging in the balance. The next few weeks are sure to bring more fireworks in the courtroom. For Diddy, the real question now is, can he keep his cool as even more damaging revelations come to light? Or will his reactions keep chipping away at the public image he's spent years creating? With more bombshell moments expected, this trial is far from over. We're all left wondering, what happens next? The Diddy trial has become more than just a celebrity scandal. It's a wake-up call about the realities of abuse in powerful relationships. Testimonies like Don Richards have pulled back the curtain on alleged emotional and psychological manipulation, the kind that often hides in plain sight. Cassie's struggles, even when cross-examined, highlight the incredible resilience it takes for victims to speak out against abuse, especially under this kind of pressure. This case shows how power and control can operate behind closed doors. Stay informed. Support victims. Don't let stories like this get buried or ignored. The next chapter of this trial could change everything we think we know. Stay tuned.